I mean, I've had, vegans on the show. I've had carnivores on the show, and the thing that I've come to the conclusion of is that I don't think there's any right or wrong. I think it's different for different people. I think that the one common thread that is across all of it is to eat as close to nature provided as
100%.
possible.
Yeah, I know a ton of vegans, and they're doing fine. We might argue on certain aspects of are you getting enough of this or that, but
and you could say the same thing for carnivores.
Sure, you could. Yeah, so I think it's about doing it right. Like I was a vegetarian for 4 or 5 years when I was a little punk rocker. Had a vegan girlfriend or something like that, vegetarian. But I was eating bean burritos, French fries, quesadillas, all this stuff. I'm like, well, that's not very healthy, is it? Like, you can be a vegetarian and be a complete slob. You can be a carnivore and be a complete slob too.
Absolutely.
So I think if you can break it down, like I said, eating good foods, like sometimes with the vegans they're eating fried tempeh, which is a processed soy product that's also been then deep fried in a PUFA, a polyunsaturated fat.
Yeah.
So I'd say that probably isn't the best way. I mean, a vegan that might eat an apple and a raw, some carrots and this and that, and they're getting in their nutrients and their beans and stuff like that, that can work too. I think you just got to be careful on those inflammatory issues, on both sides of the spectrum. So
Interesting. Do you think that there are people who are puppet masters who know that vitamin D is the lack of vitamin D being responsible for 99% of the people who are sick? They know that, and they just don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about sunlight. They don't want to talk about these things. Do you think they're doing it on purpose, or do you think that the media is just not talking about it because they're just so naive to the situation? Yeah. Do you think that there's a bigger agenda at play?
Well, I think depending on how far you go into those conspiracies, if they call them, you can't even call them that because most of them, I said this morning. If last year I was like, oh man, you better watch out because they're gonna one day probably make a passport and make you show your papers and get a vaccine. People are like, you're crazy. That'll never happen. And they're talking about it everywhere.
That's a blatant breach of my privacy.
Yeah, and they're like, that'll never happen. You're like, and everyone's talking about it now. So anyway, I think that's twofold. There's, depending on how far this agenda is, there's definitely an agenda to always make money, right? And this is going to it already is making billions, trillions of dollars. Money. Yeah, vaccine manufacturers, health people, I don't know, PPE, mask, or there's a lot of money being made. So if there's that is definitely always kind of been anyone's agenda in the world, I think. Whoever is out there doing this, and I don't know. I think it's also media is entertainment, and media makes money as well. It's not as exciting to talk about taking vitamin D and being in the sun and exercising as it is to glamorize a big bad virus that's killing. They say there's billions of cases. They don't say about the deaths. They talk. They what sounds scarier. Hundreds of thousands of cases, or like here in Bali, 1,300 deaths in 13 months, 14 months. That's pretty good odds, I'd say. There's 100 people in Bali died a month for the last 13 months.
Many?
Yeah, is that many out of 4.5 million? 4.3 million people in Bali.
I didn't even know it was that much.
Yeah, it is. I watch it every day. It ticks up a little bit, a couple.
And again, those people were probably in that age bracket, or they had some
comorbidities. Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the biggest. I cheekily post a lot on my Instagram, as you see.
Yeah.
Even to the point where I actually changed the word COVID to Divock.
Yeah,
I saw a couple people doing that because if not, they tag it and they put little things, and I get shadow banned, and I get less and less people watching all the time.
Yeah, and
I made it a point a few, 6 months ago. I was like, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'd rather say what I feel and what I think and things I look at. I am a smart human. I can give my opinion on things, and people can. I'd rather them talk to me back and explain why that might not be right, or most often not, they just think I'm an idiot, or they try to downplay it without me having any knowledge whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I looked it up. I saw a woman here, not local, as a foreigner, driving around with a mask and earphones, but no helmet. And I was like, I wonder how many people die in motor accidents in Bali. Because we've all not worn a helmet before. Like I wear it, mostly, yeah. So then I looked it up, and there's around 1,600 deaths a year from motor accidents, motor-related accidents, where we're at 1,300 or 1,200 a year with COVID.
Yeah.
So what's what's sillier, a woman driving around with a mask and earphones in, which is much dangerous than like just wearing a helmet with nothing.
Well, they should make a vaccine for people like that.
Yeah.
What I'm definitely seeing with you is that you're definitely passionate about what you're doing, and do you feel like that's a major part of the success of the growth? Like we were just saying before, I see so many people who build businesses thinking, like this is, they get into an Amazon business or whatever, and they've got no passion in what they're selling.
Yeah.
They've got no passion in Amazon. They're just trying to get into something, and very rarely do I ever see that land in terms of like they're really passionate about it. They might
they want to wake up and do it. Probably not.
or they build something for a year and then they're kind of bored already and they're tired of that. And some people, remarkably, do well out of that. And they're able to, sell the business or whatever. But there's definitely something to be said for people who are really passionate about their business and grow something organically. So has that been, you feel like that's a major part of your success?
I think definitely. There's that old adage, passion breeds success.
Yeah.
Like if you love something or you become the master of it, then you can teach it to others and, put a price on it and it becomes a business at that point. And that's kind of how I looked at things. I left other businesses in America that were successful and great, but I didn't love it.
Yeah.
and to be honest, this is quite a bit of a community kind of business. Like I meet every single person. I want to meet every single person that comes to my gym because I'm honored they come to my gym.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I've said this before in podcasts. The funniest thing I hear from customers is like, "Oh, do you mind if I just take 5 minutes of your time? I just want to take a photo with you." And I'm like, "Of course." Why? What kind of dick would I be if I couldn't take 5 minutes to chat with someone who came and paid money to go to my gym?
Yeah.
Like that's asinine if you could not do that. And I really do tell this to other gym owners and people coming up that you as an owner, even if you get real successful, you need to have a place in their business, because in a CrossFit gym or any kind of gym, like you don't have to be a world-class athlete or a high-level athlete to be a great coach or owner, but you need to have give a shit, excuse my language, but you have to kind of be there for people and talk to them and hey, where are you from? What do you do? How's your wife going? Anything. And that's huge for people. It's a common ground for people to come meet. It's a modern day church, if you will. Like it's like people want to congregate, especially now more than ever. They want to be with their peers and then talk about, good stuff or do stuff that's fun, and it's I love it. I love it every day. I'll take all day long to talk to people. Like today, I looked at my clock and I was like, oh, I got an hour before I go to the podcast. I was still there chatting someone up about, something. She wanted to hang aerial silks from this. And I was like, oh, cool. So yeah, I am passionate, and I think that helps breed a lot of success.